Good morning. I'm Brad Crisp with the Wichita Fire Department. Wanted to give you some brief information about an incident that occurred last night. At approximately 2 o'clock this morning, fire crews were called to the 700 block of North Piatt for the report of a house fire. Crews quickly realized that Piatt Street was the incorrect street, that in fact the fire was occurring on North Minneapolis, in fact Minnesota. It was 726 North Minnesota. Fire crews found heavy fire involvement when they arrived, and they found three victims out on the front yard. Two of those patients were in their 20s, one male, one female. Another patient is a 2-year-old female. Both were triaged and were considered to be in critical condition, and medical care was handed over to EMS, who was also summoned to the scene quickly. Those patients are currently in the hospital, and I don't have an update on information with them. As I said earlier, there was significant fire involvement. Fire crews were required to go into a defensive firefight, which means we fight the fire from the outside until the fire could be brought under control. The fire was brought under control. The fire has done a significant amount of damage. In fact, the structure is totaled. We estimated the loss at $50,000 on the structure, with another $10,000 worth of loss on contents. We have fire investigators on the scene right now from the Wichita Fire Department, from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, as well as private insurance investigators who are assisting Kansas Gas Service in the examination of the gas lines that go into the home. We don't have a cause for the fire right now because the investigation is currently underway, and they are doing some testing.
Initial reports suggested there was an explosion. I think that was an early 911 call that there had been an explosion or something.
Right. There is evidence to suggest that there was some type of explosion. We have not been able to yet determine what the cause of the explosion would be. There are a number of different variables that we're having to look into, including natural gas, propane, or some type of ignitable liquid explosion. But again, that is currently under investigation, and we don't have any answers for that.
So, Brad, the involvement of Kansas Gas Services you just described, is that pretty standard in this kind of thing?
It's routine. Anytime we have utilities that are attached to the house, whether it's electric or gas, we call those utility companies out to look at their equipment, to disconnect services, as well as help us investigate in the event that one of their services was involved or potentially involved in the ignition of the fire. So that's perfectly normal to have them out there.
But at this point, no reason to think it was a gas line?
At this point, I don't have any specific information about that. We're having to eliminate all potential sources of ignition and fuel, and natural gas happens to be one of the fuels that may have been present, and we're needing them there to help us rule that out.
So it sounds like a neighbor called from Piatt somewhere. Is that what happened? Is that the confusion between the addresses?
Yeah, there were multiple 911 calls. Of course, when they say there's a fire in the area of 700 North Piatt, that's where crews are going to respond to. Obviously, crews saw that there was a significant fire event happening the next block to the east, which is Minnesota, and they immediately rerouted themselves and located where the structure fire was occurring. So.
Brad, the victims, were they all asleep at the time?
I don't have that information yet. In fact, because of their condition, they're in the hospital, and we haven't had specific personal contact with them yet.
Do you feel that they...
Because of the explosion?
No, the ATF is a partner that we have. They happen to have a certified fire investigator here locally. His name is Doug Monty, and he comes out on significant fires, especially when they involve commercial structures and or injuries to civilians, and that's fairly typical. There's no other reason that he came out other than the fact that he happens to be a certified fire investigator.
Last night they said they found, when the firefighters arrived, they found all three people outside. Mm-hmm. Were they blown out of the house, or did they get themselves out of the house?
We haven't been able to determine specifically how they exited the structure. We know that they did exit the structure, but the pathway that they took, or if it had anything to do with the explosion, is not something that we've been able to establish yet.
Brad, you know, is this a husband, wife, and the child, or what the relationship is of all three?
I don't know the specific relationship. I know that they're both in their 20s, one man, one woman, and then a 2-year-old child, but I'm not sure what the status of their relationship is.
The child, is that a boy or a girl?
A girl. 2-year-old girl.
You said you haven't been able to talk to the victims because of their condition, but have you talked to any neighbors possibly about the possible smell of gas anywhere?
Yeah, of course. They're conducting a neighborhood canvass as well as talking to family members. of the victims of the family. We're gathering that information as we speak. That's been ongoing actually since about 2 o'clock this morning, but there's additional interviews that are taking place.
So I guess my question is, have any of the neighbors or anybody in the area said they smelled gas?
I don't have any of that information yet. I was briefed this morning by the on-scene investigators, but I don't have any of that specific information yet. I do know, I can share this, that Kansas Gas was out in the area probing, not only with gas meters above ground, but also underground, and they haven't found anything in the neighborhood after the fire. They haven't found anything else in the area, and that would include the surrounding neighborhoods.
The reason I ask is we did a story yesterday with Kansas Gas Service about hundreds of calls to 911 and Kansas Gas Service about a very strong gas odor in North Wichita extending all the way up to Park City.
I see. Yeah, I don't know that that's related to this particular incident. I know that they did evaluate the area, the neighborhood, and they weren't able to find anything that would cause us any concern.